for lateness.
Yeah.
All right. All right, let's see. I have YouTube up above. Let's see. Who's here? If you are here, post where you are watching from.
Where are you today, Kadisha?
I'm in Southern Florida.
Nice. Good place to be in the spring.
The weather is really nice here. It's not as hot as I expected.
Mm-hmm.
Nice breezy, yeah, this is really nice here. It's gonna be hard drive back to Alabama. I tell you that.
When are you heading back?
I'm trying to find some place to rent or something pretty quickly. Stuff takes too long.
Awesome.
We
Oh.
got Mississippi in the house. Toronto's in the house.
Mm-hmm.
I was stationed in Mississippi. I was in Biloxi, Mississippi. You know what? I tell you, it was so affordable. Like it was very affordable over there. Is this going to be on YouTube? It is on YouTube right now.
We're live on YouTube, Trace. Hi, how are you doing? Coming to
We're
us from
live.
Illinois.
We're on YouTube. We are on LinkedIn. Richmond, Virginia's in the house.
Jordan, hi.
South of me. Madison. Madison, where? Oh, Madison. Oh, yeah. Okay, Madison, Mississippi. Yeah. I like Mississippi. It was nice. It was my favorite place. I was stationed at. All right, Richmond. Yeah, Mississippi in the house. Got an interview. Someone's got an interview coming up and they're freaking out.
Whoa. If you're freaking out, I would love to hear why.
Yeah, post in the chat. Why are you freaking out? Okay, great. Where are you watching from? Where are you hailing from, Emily?
Right now, I am on the west coast of Mexico. So, you got the Gators, I got the Crocs down here.
I don't want either. I don't want either.
Yeah. I mean, the Crocs down here, they're pretty tame. They just kind of hang out. They have a lot of birds to eat. So I'm not too worried about them.
Okay, so the birds are basically distracting them from eating the people.
Well, I mean, where we live, it's like not like crocodiles are walking around in our neighborhood. Like you have to go to places where there's some like fresh water. So not a lot of that right where we live, but it's a good 30 minutes drive to the beach. And between here and the beach, there is fresh water, and there actually is like a kind of crocodile sanctuary or crocodile environment. Like you can go and get in a boat and like boat through these crocodile infested, maybe crocodile habitat. You can take a journey through crocodile habitat, let's say, and observe the crocodiles in their habitat.
How fascinating. Are you by the closest where's the Sierra Cortez? Okay.
That's a lot farther north. That's like Baja, California. I'm further south than that, closer to Puerto Vallarta.
Fort Lauderdale is in the house. Silver Spring is in the house. Live coding session. Okay, live coding session. Yeah, we're going to talk about the different types of interviews to prepare for. So that's going to be good.
Yeah.
Fort Lauderdale. Listen, if you're a person from Fort Lauderdale, do you have you ever purchased a baby gator at the gas station? Apparently, that's what they do here.
Remind me to never go to Florida again.
Why would you not come here again? You just like, go and buy gators.
Have pet gators? That's not a thing. Vader, do you have a pet gator?
I've seen YouTube things of like them just like strolling in neighborhoods.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we are I say let's get started there. All right. So what are we
Mhm.
talking today? We're talking how to ace your data analyst interview. So we're going to be talking. I'm going to be talking about the technical stuff. Emily's going to be talking about the behavioral stuff. Um, before we get into it, though, before we get into how to ace, Emily, you've been doing this for a long time. Let's start with like, are there any like maybe recent or kind of trends in interviews that you've seen with your clients, et cetera, in the past few months that were not the case maybe years ago? Because there's career changes or whatnot when they're pivoting into tech or whatever. Sometimes this is their first time like really interviewing in years, right? So it's
Mm.
just like it's like not to when like people like they go to jail or prison or something, and that's like 20 years ago, and they're like, whoa, it's like a
And they
whole
don't
new world. That's
they
basically
don't know
what
how
it
to use the
is.
phone. Yeah. I mean, honestly, it is like that lately. I've been talking to people lately who haven't interviewed for like the last 5 years. AI is a whole thing now, it's shaking up the job market, and people are needing to move from like one spot to the next. And now they're like, what do I do? It is a different world. Um, it is a different world overall. But the good thing, so when we're talking about interviews, like it's still basically the same thing happening today that was happening 5 years ago. So, I mean, the main thing that's happening in the interview is that you're talking to a human. And in the application process, right? I mean, it sounds so basic, right? There's so many different components to the hiring process, but when you get like all you're doing when you're sending out a resume is you're saying, "Hi, I'd like to speak to a human, please." And then you get to the point where you can speak to the human. And I think in the past, like larger companies kind of like let's say Amazon, some of the larger companies like that kind of pioneered the behavioral interview question and like had like started like introducing this like really structured interview. So at larger corporations, like this is the type of interview style that we've been seeing where they'll ask questions like, tell me about a time when you did X, Y, and Z. And then you'll go through and answer the question in star format and tell about an experience that you had that matches, the question that they're asking you. Today, that is just so much the case across the board. Like smaller companies are doing the same thing. So when it comes to interviews, I think remember number one, you're talking to a person. Number two, you got to know how to play the game. And actually, like I was talking to, I think I was talking to when I was talking to the Data in Motion crowd yesterday. We talked a little bit about interviews, and I just, I like to frame it like this. Like, do you remember taking those standardized tests in high school?
Gosh, yes.
The SAT, the ACT, if you ever had to take an English test for English as a foreign language, the TOEFL, or like for grad school, the GMAT or something, like when you study for these tests, there are different things that are happening. Like number one, you need to know the subject matter to be able to answer the questions correctly. But number two, you also have to learn about the format of the test and how to take the test. So, there are a couple of different things. There are a couple of different things happening, and I got a little bit of hate this week on Instagram because I made some comments about how to negotiate for salaries and how to answer, a standardized interview question. And people will come at me and say, just answer the question. It's just a conversation. Yes, it is just a conversation. So the person's going to want to know, you know, uh, can you do the job? Do you have the skills? Number two, are you a fit? Are you going to succeed here? And are you going to like help us achieve our goals? And number three, you have like a certain time frame in which to make this happen. So if you don't give them what they need to hear from you in that time frame, we're moving on. If we didn't get it, question mark, sorry, next. So that's why we really need to prepare not only to know the skills, talk like a human during the interview, but also like know how to prepare for the interview and know how to structure our answers in a way that is conducive to the environment that you're in at that moment.
Right. And the first thing we said, like, do you have the skills to do the job? Um, very easily if you don't know how to communicate. Like a lot of people will like downplay their experience, or they'll think that, oh, I don't really have this experience, and then you kind of like ask them a bit more and they're like, well, you have way more experience. So if you basically like, just imagine like if you just talk to someone or you met someone and you're like, yeah, I've done some recruiting here and there. You completely doubt, like, you've done way more than recruiting here and there, right? So, like,
Right.
like, that very moment or that brief moment of, like, saying or sharing your experience to explain that you can do the job, if you don't
Mm,
know how to communicate that well at a high level, like, it's over for you. Like, it doesn't
yeah.
matter. It's like that thing where it's like, if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, did it fall? It doesn't matter. No one was there to hear it. So it's just like, that's just like, yeah. Um, so yeah, that's gonna be one of the things when it comes down to like, I made some like slides or whatever.
Oh,
Um, to actually, let me not. I didn't make slides. I made these slides last year. I just happened to have it, and it's happened to
okay.
be like related. So I'm going to first talk about like the types of interviews to prepare for, because it's basically the same. It's actually, I literally made this like last year, but it's mostly the same pretty much, right?
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, this is pretty much still true to land your first job and to stand out as a top 1% candidate. You want to focus on these skills, right? SQL, Excel is a given, Tableau, Power BI, PowerPoint, data viz, storytelling, communication. And honestly, now I would say, honestly, all five of these should be highlighted, all of them. Problem solving and leadership, especially problem solving. Oh my gosh, so much out there. When you talk about like how much people are so too reliant on AI that they're outsourcing all their problem solving. Like you can literally tell. You can just have a conversation with someone, and just you're just saying like basic solutions or whatever. And it's like people are just like they want to over engineer over whatever. It's like that critical thinking skills or critical thinking. Literally, it's going out the window now. Interestingly, I remember growing up, right? It's like parents or whatever thought like Grand Theft Auto and video games were gonna be like the enemies of children's like critical thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Little did they know, 20 years later, it was actually gonna be AI and whatever. Because literally, it's like whenever we're at an interview, right? That's gonna be basically a time under pressure. So anytime we're put under pressure, we're gonna default to our fundamentals and our habits. And if you're habitually just going to AI or just looking at whatever it is, your problem solving is literally like diminishing. Like it's like people skipping leg day now. It's like everyone's skipping leg day. Problem
Mm-hmm.
solving is leg day, and AI is making sure that everyone's skipping leg day, and it's ridiculous. It's an epidemic now. Too
Yeah.
many people are skipping leg day, and it's becoming like okay. Like,
Yeah.
can you imagine? Like literally, like let's just like imagine like Jim saying we're just gonna throw away the leg press and the squat rack. You
Yeah.
don't have to do legs. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's literally what's happening right now. Um,
Can
so yeah,
I make can I make
yeah,
a comment on skipping leg day?
yeah.
So along the lines of problem solving and thinking on your feet, maybe this is slightly off topic, but along the lines of problem solving, there are, and speaking of AI, there are tools that you can use that are available on the market that for some reason have have clients that you can switch on a tool during the interview and you can have it listen in on your interview and then overlay the answer to the question and you can read it as if you're reading off of a teleprompter. So this is outsourcing your thinking 100% and people can see this. So if you guys are thinking about using one of those, it is so much more valuable to take time ahead of time to prepare for the questions that are coming up, be an authentic person, than have your eyes, scanning across the screen when you're in the room with the hiring manager.
You're going to get caught at some point. It's just
Yeah.
like, can you talk to briefly? Like, I don't think people like realize like how much companies like I don't want to say waste, but like, the cost of a bad hire. Like the cost of a bad hire, like how often people are like, ah, man, this person's not good, so they have to fire him in the first 90 days. Like I
Yeah.
don't like that's a completely different cost
Yeah.
that like missing out on. Like you're gonna get caught. So
Absolutely. And I mean, the cost, first of all, cost of a bad hire, let's talk about the cost of hiring a person in the first place. You might think, oh, we're just having a conversation. That doesn't actually cost anything. But that is expensive for the company. And why is that? Because the company has to hire somebody like me to get you as a candidate to the point in the pipeline where I've had a conversation, like I've reviewed your resume. Well, first of all, I got a job description together. I then collected resumes. I posted it on the internet. I got a list of candidates. I reviewed 1,000 resumes, like literally 1,000 resumes. I've sorted you out. I'm having maybe the first initial interview with 5% of the people who applied, like times 30 minutes of my time each. And then let's say of those people, let's say I push 5 or 6 or 10 people onto stage 2 hiring manager interviews. That stage alone is maybe 10 hours, maybe 15 hours of hiring manager time taken away from the tasks that are actually affecting the company's bottom line. So, in terms of pay, it's my pay, period, because they need to hire a new person. Then it's all the communication that needs to happen back and forth within the teams, communication. And then every time a new person comes on, there's an onboarding period where you're learning, you're learning what's going on. Like, I don't expect you to be fully up and running, like a top, a top employee until maybe the end of 90 days. And let's say the company gives you 90 days, and at the end of that 90 days, maybe you've fallen flat and you haven't accomplished your goals and you're out of there. And then, in addition to the cost that it took to hire you, and we're not even talking like just my interview and the first interview. I used to run panel interviews. So after that first hiring manager interview, each candidate had 4 additional interviews. That was 4 hours of time. And then there's time for negotiations, et cetera, et cetera. So that whole hiring process plus the onboarding process is, let's say, 90 plus 30 days of lost productivity for that person in that chair. That's 4 months. And the company's paying for those 4 months. And then I have to start the process again. It's 8 months paying for that. And there's no productivity happening there. So be a good hire, guys. Don't get fired.
right, and I think that also speaks to like the problem solving leadership point because if you prove to be someone who can get ramped up faster, you don't have to have your hand held. I mean, when I think of, I've been getting students lately that are like literally like seniors in college and things like that, which this is really good because I feel like you know, if you're a what are they, Gen Z, if you're a college person, like the barrier for like entry level or even like the, I don't know, the patience, I guess, kind of thinning
Mm,
to like ramp up too. So like I think it's just really good for if you're like a student or whatever when it comes down to like knowing like all sides of the coin as to why hiring is like such a mess. It's not just one-sided. It's
yeah.
like so many things. So that's why I always say like all these things about like improving your skills, improving your brand, all this stuff. It's about reducing the risk on the other side. It's just like when we're buying stuff, like what are things that we want to see that would reduce the risk in buying things? Like when you go to Best Buy, I went to Best Buy the other day. They got open box, right? People who bring stuff back. It's like the risk is a little higher. I mean, you
Mm,
don't know that person, but all these things, it's like it's all there is a risk, and all the things that you can do to, again, your skills, your branding, your communication, you literally, it's all about literally reducing the risk on the other person's side. So hopefully that's a good way to reframe it.
mhm.
But okay, so let's talk about the multiple types of technical assessments, and this is still pretty true, I will say. You got live SQL questions, asynchronous SQL questions. So like think of like leak code, take home projects. live EDA projects and then live SQL assessments. I've seen all of these. I've seen all of these across in my, across the community, the past like what 5 years now. Um, SQL. So like someone posted in the chat, they got a live coding session coming up. So here's the thing. This is especially important. I'm going to share a framework that should help you. I'm also going to share something. I'm actually going to share something that helped me just got better at SQL. Um, but SQL is always going to be the gatekeeper. So you want to be able to know how to think in code, think in SQL, because at the end of the day, again, whenever we're put under pressure, we always resort or default back to uh, our fundamentals and our habits. So that is why it's especially important to practice how you play. And if you're like I said, like struggle, it's just like practicing like athletes. Like if you're struggling, you rather want to struggle to figure something out now when you're practicing at home than in the interview, right? So if you're struggling to whatever it takes to develop the intuition and the learnings to understand SQL, understand the window functions, understand the CTEs, it's not going to be quick. Okay. Do not go to Reddit and be like, hey, how long does it take to learn SQL? What don't listen to that. I remember I looked up like, hey, how long should it take to learn Python when I first started? One person said a week. So I thought that was the standard. It took me like 2 months. So it just forget about that. Whatever long it takes, like whatever's worth having is going to take a while. So I think people are, I don't know, it's get like, oh, that's one thing too about AI. It's like it's reducing the it's like people are not used to just like going through, I'm not saying the struggle, but like learning things, like the process of learning things, the process of getting better. Like embrace that again. Embrace of avoid the idea that, oh, you can just go to ChatGPT and just get the answer. Just ignore all of that, and just go back to the plain old pre-GPT days of just going through the struggle and the process of learning. Heck, learn how to learn. Like go back to whatever your learning style was, kinesthetic, all the other ones, and just and see what you can do to develop your learning abilities better. Right? Some people are visual learners, some people are auditory. I would maybe take some time to figure that out, and then whatever it is, apply it to the best way that you learn. Um, yeah, AI is great, but you have to know because it won't always be right. And about that, someone posted in the Slack the other day about that with feedback loops, and I haven't had time to look into this more. So with feedback loops, literally, if the AI like they will if they like provide like what do you call it actual errors, it'll retain that error in their memory, and it's just like error on top of error, error on top of error. So yeah, AI is a mess. Okay, so live SQL questions, asynchronous SQL questions. So you got folks doing the live, yeah, the live coding ones. I've seen that pretty often. More, I think the live coding ones are definitely more. I would say more. What do you call it? Um, Popular in recent months, along with just like, hey, explain your thinking. What is a join? What is whatever it is. That's why you want to definitely learn how to think in SQL. Also, this too, right? Whenever you're learning something, right? If you're learning CTEs for the first time, actually, right now, not even right now, but like, can you like in your own words write or explain what these concepts are without, because that is in terms of like, hey, what is your explanation of something, that's what you're going to default to. If you cannot say it or verbalize it, that's completely fine. That just means you got to do some more work.
Mhm.
But that's going to be like a kind of, I don't know, one of those things to give your own feedback. If you're truly understanding something, can you just say things in your own words?
Yeah.
um
Can I say something to that?
no. Yeah, go ahead.
So when I started hiring at Wayfair, I came from a non-tech background. I was working in education before that. I had been using some data stuff, but I didn't have like a ton of experience with data. I didn't know the lingo. And one of the first things I did was after I would have my initial screens with candidates, then they would go on to the hiring manager screen before going on to the panel. And I was really fortunate to be invited into a couple of those hiring manager screens. So it was the head of the data department at Wayfair, and he would ask a simple question. And he would say, "Here's Emily. She doesn't know anything about SQL. Can you explain to her what a join is?" And I remember to this day very clearly the person who was in that first interview. She was a recent grad, and she explained it so clearly and easily. I immediately understood what it meant, and he left that interview saying that is the best explanation, simple explanation of what a join is that I've ever heard. And that's the kind of stuff that sticks with you. And when you're working as a data analyst, you have clients throughout the business who are not data people, and you need to be able to communicate with them. So a lot of times, like what I've seen is when people go into an interview thinking that they need to be like overly technical, overly professional and polished. I find that actually dumbing down your language is a skill, and it is an important skill for people in data.
Oh yeah, simplicity. Like I am team simple. Like the over complex it's just like what do you call it? Like if people don't understand, like if you can't, I mean, like I like Emily, but like if she couldn't speak in English, I mean, she's no good to any of us, you know?
Right?
So it's literally the same thing. Like I've even been in like even like meetings with like folks with like 20, 30 years of experience in this area, and I don't. And they'll be talking all this jargon. And I'm like, I don't even understand what the heck they're talking about. And they
Mhm.
have like it's like they have like very it's like so difficult for them to like dumb it down and
Yeah.
explain. Which is like it's ridiculous. Then you're spending more time just like trying to understand each other than actually get into the solution. So that's
Yeah.
why communication is a problem because it's like not wasting time trying to figure out your dang language.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right. So sequel take home projects. So take home assessments. I mean, this is like one of the holy grails. I'm not really sure I'm not sure. I will say the live coding ones are definitely more prevalent now, especially because of the age of AI and people can just like cheat on the on take home assessments. Take home assessments, in my opinion, these were definitely very popular in like even like highly paying roles. I've seen people who usually it's when where you're given a take home like a data set of questions. You have to do like a dashboard or do like a slide deck presentation. And then if you pass, you gotta actually do a verbal presentation. I've seen people who are great, highly technical. They knew their stuff, but their decks were just awful, and they didn't get through. So that's why slide decks and just communication, storytelling, and that narrative is like it's super important. It's literally just like you know, I don't know. Think of like your favorite store. I don't know. What's your favorite like supermarket? And just imagine it like your favorite supermarkets you like to go to, whether it's Kroger, Publix, whatever. And it's like it looks like a prison. You're not gonna go in there, right? Exactly. So
Absolutely not.
exactly. Same thing. So live so live stuff like live the big I say the more prevalent thing is just like live assessments of your technical abilities have been whether it's verbal, whether it's like some sort of coding assessment, it's live. And again, live is under pressure and you're always going to default to your habits and your fundamentals. So if if you don't want to go through the pain and the learning process on your own, then dang, you're just gonna waste all that time to get to the interview and just suck because you didn't want to make it harder for yourself before. You kind of wanted to, I don't know, put it off or whatever. Like it's like we gotta get comfortable with being uncomfortable again because that's where growth happens. It's AI again, it's making everything too comfortable. Learning new things is not comfortable. Okay, let's go
Yeah.
back and embrace that again.
Yeah.
Um,
So, can I ask you a question then?
yeah,
So, what is a good way for people to be using AI in order to prepare themselves for, like, let's say, a SQL assessment?
I gotta be honest with you. So, like for me, I think of it like first of all, you have to have the skills and have the mastery of it, and then you prepare for the interview. So, like for the past like 5 years or whatever, uh, just seeing people, I've seen people. They'll be like, "Hey, I'm applying." They'll be applying and they'll be interviewing or whatever. And whether they're not getting callbacks or there's some people who will be getting interviews and just bombing. Sometimes, first of all, you have to are your skills at that level in the first place? That's number one, right? So once that's like, if we're going to assume that's the case, I can answer that. But number one, your skills have to be there. So, and AI is just one of those things where do you even like it? Is your skills up to par? If they're not, there's tons of free stuff. There's tons of free practice that you don't have to even go to AI. Like for me, like if people was able to learn SQL, etc., before ChatGPT, you can still do it. Like all those resources that I use, they're still available for free. So in terms of like understanding concepts, sure, but again, there's like in terms of like learning skills for a data analyst, I still haven't really noticed like something where oh AI has to be there in terms of like learning it, right? I haven't seen that. Now in terms of like okay, you want to like maybe get some code snippets for data cleaning, sure, but that's like way down the line. But in terms of like learning, you know, you can always say like helps you like with the concepts, but still I feel like even like 85% of the way you don't need AI, to be honest with you, because again most people are gonna use it as a crutch. So it's just one of the reasons why I it's like way at the last thing that I even care to teach, even my thing. um but here is something where, in terms of like SQL, for example, like if you have a live coding assessment, there's just a simple like 4-step thing of uh, trying to do a live SQL assessment, right? First, if you got tables, like analyze the given tables to understand relationships, right? To see if there's going to be joins, etc. Then you write out that the expected columns, like just briefly, like write out what the expected like result would look like in the table. And then you build your query starting with the where clause. And then you think out loud. You say you're thinking out loud. If you cannot do this on your own, that is where to start. Nothing, nowhere else. And one thing you can do, like I do voice notes. Like record yourself, video record yourself, and just do it and just keep it for you like privately. Like this is like we have to like create the environment of like pressure. Like
Mm,
that's just you can't wait until the interview, right? You
right.
just can't wait. Create the environment of pressure, create the environment of like seeing yourself fail, right? So yeah. But again, when it comes down to AI and the preparation phase, obviously you can definitely how do I get out of here? Uh, you can definitely you know uh like once your skills are there, you can always like ask it to do an assessment. You can do voice. You can ask it, hey, you can like verbalize and say your answer, and then you could ask it to analyze or evaluate what your answer is. So I think a good like an actual like mock interview where it's actually like assessing and evaluating your answer for thoroughness or whatever. Oh, did I say? I saw something where it says ChatGPT is designed to be like a yes man, basically. Like it's like
Absolutely.
yeah, MIT did a study where it's like it's literally inherently designed to just be a yes man.
Yeah.
So I know ChatGPT is like probably the first vocabulary word that we think of, but definitely test the other ones, Claude, whatever. I don't get Gemini, but like having it give feedback on what your thoughts are, what your explanations are, and using the voice. I think that's like the best way for you know um, for it. Ask it, give it help to like dumb things down or whatever.
Mhm.
We got
Absolutely.
someone saying, I actually prompt Claude to act as a recruiter who review thousands of data analyst candidates and thoroughly ask me live questions. Based on technical skill, I'm going to print out my career. Yeah, yeah, excellent. Stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Using it to assess. So, Kadisha, I really liked what you said about, doing the assessment and recording yourself doing it. Because after you do that, you can either, you can upload the video to ChatGPT or whatever LLM you're using, or you can pull the transcript from it, toss it into the LLM, giving it the foundation that you need to assess this based on whatever criteria. And sometimes, when you're interviewing for a certain company, you can find information about what they're looking for online. So as much context as you can give it, the better. And then based on that information, give it your transcript or just give it the video and have it go back and assess what you've done. So I agree with you 100%. Like the learning, you can absolutely be doing that. And you can be using the assessment during the learning too. Like, okay, I made this, like, can you assess my query? So I love it 100% right now for assessments. But I think Kadisha, you are absolutely on track that like there's so much material out there. Like you can learn SQL, but you gotta learn it. You gotta learn it. And using the AI instead of like a crutch as an assessment tool to make sure you're doing it right.
Yeah, literally don't rush to AI like at all.
Yeah.
It's like don't rush to it.
Yeah. And for those of you who do like coding challenges, the asynchronous coding challenges. So we actually ran one of those on a platform. I can't even remember what it was called anymore. But even at that time, and that was like 2018, 2019, when candidates would do the challenge, they didn't know it, but the challenge interface was recording the entire interaction. So when our data analysts would go and look at the results of the coding challenge, it wouldn't just show like your final output, it would show the process. So I could see letters appearing in like a video format on the screen if I wanted to, and it would flash a certain color if a paste event happened. So it would indicate like you pasted. And I don't want to say that, today is a different world than it was back then. I personally didn't have a problem with pasting if like copying pasting if then adjustments were made in order for the outcome to be correct. But like if you're doing that, like something like that in a live interview and you're able to use resources or like coding support, you got to be able to understand, like Kadisha said, the thought process behind it.
Like, can you imagine, like, let's say, like, AI started building all our cars to the point where no car place will know how to fix our cars. You know,
Mm,
we don't want that.
right.
So, yeah, y'all don't want to live in that type of world. Just
Yeah.
imagine that, and then get back to learning. Okay, just get
Yeah.
back to learning. That's scary.
Absolutely. Do you have any other tips for the technicals?
I don't know. I feel like I spoke enough.
Okay. Okay, great. And also this person in the chat, I'm going to call you OO because I don't want to butcher your name. So I apologize for that in advance. If you have any other questions about your upcoming interview, I would love to hear them. And in the meantime, I am going to go on and talk a little bit about like the behavioral side because I mean, if you're meeting us for the first time, of course, Katisha has the analytical background. She's worked in big companies analyzing, I don't know, terabytes, petabytes of data.
Not big companies like you. You definitely work on bigger companies.
Well, I didn't do that much data analysis while I was there. Um, but that being said, so I not only was involved in framing those behavioral interviews, but also, training the interviewers on how to assess them. And so it's not only like really an assessment for the candidate, but it's also a learning experience for the interviewer because they have to learn how to run this process. So I feel like it's kind of a group effort. We have 30 minutes to an hour to get through learning about each other and basically, assessing one another to see whether there's a fit. So we have to make it as easy as possible for the other party to make sure that that's happening from both sides. So I feel like, you know, taking the time to prepare yourself while doing research about the company, getting your reps in, preparing for behavioral interview questions, and having all of that information top of mind when you go into that session, you're really setting yourself up for success, because you don't want to get to the end of the interview and they just didn't get what they wanted out of you, because at that point there's, I got 5 more candidates in my pipeline that all already passed the the hiring manager screen. So if you didn't make it, well, this is my chance to whittle, to thin the field down a little bit. There's not going to be another chance. So like framing it like I mentioned earlier, like this is a standardized test. Yes, it's a conversation, but we need to understand what the rules of this engagement are. Okay. So that being said, I can call you Larry. I'm so sorry that I said your name wrong. I will call you Larry going forward. All right, great. So let's talk about like what's being assessed. I know I touched on it briefly. I'll touch on it briefly again. Like, okay, number 1, can you do the job? Do you have the skills that you need to do the job? Number 2, how do you think? That's what I'm trying to get to the bottom of with these behavioral interview questions. Not only like what was the result, but what is your thinking process throughout? Like what kind of person am I getting with? There are some interview questions that are kind of used to see if you're going to trip up and like maybe throw somebody under the bus or talk negatively about experiences that you've had in the past, and you just want to always like keep it forward looking and positive and for like going into the next direction. Like we don't want to be tossing anybody under the bus or talking negatively about the experiences that we've had. I mean, everyone has gone through challenges in their work life, and I think if we're successful, we can frame them as such. And if we're like negative people, then the hiring manager might think, okay, when you are done working for me in 2 years time or 3 years time, and you start having interviews at the next company, are you going to talk about me the way you're talking about your old boss right now? So it's not only like, can you do the skills? Are you a person that I'm going to want to work with? But like, what is your attitude like overall? How do you think? What's your attitude like? Can you get it to me in the amount of time that I need to? And Kadisha, you mentioned risk earlier. Risk, that was a really good point, because like you said, it is super expensive to have a bad hire. So we try to avoid that as much as possible. And a lot of times people complain about like standardized hiring processes. They are really designed in order to mitigate risk. I don't want you to skip an important step that somebody else had to go through, because that might be a weak point for you, where somebody else might fly through it. You might get through that point, and then later, 6 weeks into the job, I might find out like this was your weak point, and now I have to deal with it. And if I can't make it work with you, I'm going to have to start the hiring process again. So also super important. I mentioned earlier that it's a two-way street, right? They're evaluating you, but you should be evaluating them just as much, because I've had, and it's tough when you're in the situation where you're not in employment right now. That is a really, really tough place to be in. And I don't want to put anybody down or diminish anybody's efforts if they are just taking whatever they can get in those moments, because you've got mouths to feed, you've got rent to pay, you got to keep the lights on in your house. I understand that 100%. And it's really important to think, I am going to be in this job. I'm going to be here 8 hours a day with these people for the next X number of years. It is a really big part of your life. So it should be a good fit for you too. I know that like obviously it's easier if you're in employment right now to jump into the next role that fits you really well, where you love the people. But also I feel like that's something that we really need to consider, even if we are not in employment at the moment. Like, is this something that's going to like lift us up, or is it something that's going to like bring us down on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis? Okay. So I would like to talk. I think, on here we've talked in the past about like what constitutes a good answer. So I don't want to like go through that again. I would like to take a moment to talk about like what are some of the top reasons that I see people maybe not do really well in an interview. And this is from me like getting feedback every time somebody that I work with goes into an interview. I always ask them, how was it? How did you feel? What happened? Just so that we're able to like pick up on like little things that we can be improving. So, number one, being underprepared. Because when you're underprepared, they're going to be asking you about a bunch of situations that you hopefully have had in your past work. And the worst thing that can happen to you is you get out of that interview and then like you have a moment to cool down, and like the next day you're like, oh my god, I should have told this, like this was the thing that I should have talked about, and you just couldn't think of it in the moment. But the good thing is that because interviewing is quite standardized these days, it's easy to know what types of questions you can expect to see. So doing a little bit of research online, this is something that you can really use. You can really use AI for. Have it come up with a list of questions that it can expect that it might expect you to be asked. Give it the profile of the interviewer. Give it your profile. Ask it, do you see any weak points in my profile? Answer the questions, make sure you're using the star format, and then at the end, use it again as like an evaluation tool to see whether or not you answered the question to the expectations of the theoretical interviewer. So practice makes better. Just even if you're practicing with the LLM, you got to say it out loud. Like Kadisha said, record yourself doing it. It's like you just put that extra little bit of pressure on yourself. It's more realistic practice to be recording yourself, to be saying it out loud, because when you get there in the moment, you could freeze. So like make it as real as it could possibly be. I love doing it with another person because sometimes like if you're sitting in front of the computer, you might not feel embarrassed. But then let's say you're sitting with your partner or a friend of yours, and you're going through these interview questions and you don't know, you feel embarrassed in that moment. And that's something that can happen in the real like interview scenario. So get it over with when it's not go time. Let's do that beforehand. Also, something that I see quite often is that people if they don't clarify what's meant. So you're allowed to ask questions. In the interview scenario, we think we're going to be asked a lot of questions and we're going to have to answer them. But I think it really helps to think of it more as a conversation, especially when it comes to data rules, because, I, as a potential data client, I'm not going to be able to just like toss some requirements to you and you're going to understand 100% what kind of business knowledge I have inside my head. And I don't know like what that looks like on your end. So there's going to have to be a lot of good questions back and forth, really respectful and like with the intention to learn from one another. And you can be really showcasing that to them in this interview. If you don't understand the question, don't give an answer, ask a clarifying question. Last thing that I see super, super common when I'm interviewing someone. If I'm interviewing you, Kadisha, I want to know what your contribution was, what your initiatives were, what you did. And a lot of times in the past, we worked in teams and we talk about what we did using the word we. And if I hear you say we, that is so confusing to me because I understand that you probably worked in a team, but then I can't in that moment pick out what your specific role was. So try and use I as much as possible and talk about your specific contribution and try and separate that, from the team. Of course, it was a team effort. And as a team, I'm sure you got results, but it's really important for me to understand your particular contribution. Hi, Yvonne. Thanks for joining us today. Okay. Also, yes, they'll be asking you questions, and you can do as much as you can to lead the narrative. So a lot of times interviewers will, they'll start off by saying, "So tell me a little bit about yourself." And this is an amazing opportunity for you to lead the conversation and drive them in the direction that you want them to go in. So there are strategies for answering every different type of interview question. When it comes to the behavioral ones, it's the STAR format, which we talked about previously. When it's the introduction, drive them in the direction you want them to go in by telling them everything that's relevant to the job that you're applying for now, and what your industry connections are if you have them, and why you're excited about the current company and or role that you're interviewing for. So I think we only have like 5 minutes left. I don't know where to
When
go
you
from here.
when you were talking about like you're asking questions so that you're not like bashing your like previous company or whatever, like it reminded me of like in like dating whenever like you're asked like people ask like "Oh, why the last relationship not work out?" And then I didn't realize until like I got older like why it was a red flag when the person would always like be so negative or bashing, literally,
Mm,
especially when you first meet them, right? Back
mm,
to the previous partners. Because again,
yeah,
there's always two sides to a story, but it's like if that's like you first meet someone and you're just like bashing,
yeah,
and it's like not taking any accountability or just not like, then you're like, you're probably gonna do the same thing, and they usually do. They usually do.
yeah,
It's always something where it's gonna be where they play victim or whatever it is. Yeah, I never realized how like really that was a big thing, and as far as like interviews until I always compare it into to something else.
yeah.
The we thing too. I just remember I don't know, analogies, right? Like when you're on a first date, you're not gonna say we like, yeah, me and my ex did blah blah blah. Right? No,
Right.
you trying to be selfish. Yeah.
It's just like dating, guys. Interviews just, and honestly, it can really be like dating because you're looking for that match. And I've had clients in the past who are like, they're looking for something very specific and they can't figure out why it's not working for them. And I'll reframe it as, "Oh, you're not looking for a job. You're dating right now. You're looking for a partner." And then if they start thinking about it that way, sometimes that can be the little
Mhm.
spark that gets them to change the way that they approach their job search.
I think
Yeah.
that I think that's like the best way to like always reframe things in analogies. To be honest.
Yeah.
Um, all right, we got about 4 minutes left. Any other questions? There wasn't too many questions in the chat. Maybe people were
Yeah.
so enthralled with what we had to say. Um, any questions in the chat? I feel like it was a good session today.
Yeah.
Um, any questions? I often believe it's sometimes best to not overthink an interview. Yeah.
Yeah. Like instead of overthink, ask a question. How deep do you want me to go? How technical do you want me to be? I mean, there's also such a thing as like, know the crowd, like read the room a little bit. So sometimes if I had that first interview with a person as, a recruiter, and they start talking to me in all these technical terms, like, you cannot read the room, friend. I do not have a master's degree in math, in data science, in business, any of these things. So we're like very surface level here. So there is something to be said for tailoring your language and your tone and your like academic level or your level of terminology, like we said earlier, to the person that you're talking to.
Yeah, it's no one's impressed by big words, big fancy words. Like no one's impressed.
Yeah,
Um,
it can actually make you come off as arrogant. So
leave it for like your LinkedIn and resume, but like in conversation, don't talk
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
What do you look for in final round that comes with presentation of Excel analysis? I mean, overall storytelling. To be honest, storytelling. Your storytelling has to be number one. So very it's the same with like portfolios. Like there's a lot of portfolios that I've seen where it's like Like the very first, like for example, anytime you're using like Tableau or Power BI, or heck even Excel, like as soon as like you drag something on there, like that very first image of the bar chart, that's usually what some people will you think as like the final thing that they'll like put on their portfolio or on their presentation, and absolutely not, right? You got to take things off, you got to take away the clutter, you got to do, action titles, whatever it is. But in terms of like final round when it comes to the presentation, it's data storytelling. I mean, I can talk data storytelling all freaking day, but like
Mm.
remove the clutter, all that stuff. uh Read data storytelling with data. Wait, no, read storytelling with data like 3 times. I don't care until it's like in your brain. Yeah. So let's go. Let me go, touch on this very quickly. Again, going back to actually learning things. Just because we took a course or read something once, that does not mean it's like installed in our brains. I don't care if you have to reference it every day or whatever it is. There's some certain books I always had on my like desk that I would always reference. Like just because maybe you read it or skimmed through it the first time, that does not mean it's like installed on your brain. Like you gotta like it's like repetition and stuff. So too often I've seen people like it's one of their very first books like they'll read when they like first get into data, and then like you see their work and you're in my mind I'm like, no, you gotta go back and read that book again. Like
Mm.
these are things that
Mhm.
should be like ingrained. Um um let's see. And again, if you want to talk about presentation, I would look up, big four consulting slide deck presentations. Like BCG, Bolton Consulting Group is probably the best one. They probably have the best storytelling out of all of them. They have amazing slide story, but just look at that. Just look at that standard, and just be like, I gotta get to that standard, and just go. It's about looking, seeing what good actually looks like, and just getting there, just working towards it. It's okay if you're not there right now, but as long as you know what good looks like, and then just work towards it. All right, we're we did start a little late, but we're at the top of the hour. Does anyone have any more questions? Does anyone have any? What do you guys want us to talk about next time? It was a great session tonight. Glad everyone was here to be with us. Hope we're able to help you knock out your interview
Yeah, you've
coming up.
got that interview coming up tomorrow. I would love to see how that goes for you. So if you're able to connect with us on LinkedIn and just drop us a line how it went after you're done, that'd be great.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that being said, I always love to connect with everybody on LinkedIn. I'm gonna drop my LinkedIn here. If you're
Or,
not watching on LinkedIn,
or you can share your screen, and because you're on the multiple platforms, right? You're on LinkedIn, you're on the Instagram, or you're on TikTok.
yes.
Are we planning on are you planning on doing more LinkedIn portfolio reviews? You know what? I can. It's been a while. You know what? Yeah, well, you know what? Yeah, I'll do a portfolio. Yeah, I can start doing those again. I've been wanting to go back doing weekly lot, like doing those again. Shoot, I can start doing those again.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm happy for you to review the portfolio and me to review the LinkedIn page.
oh, you want to do it together?
Well, I don't think I'm very useful on the portfolio review.
I was asking. I would always ask for both. I'd have a Google form, and I'd
Oh,
say, do you want your portfolio? And yeah, so sometimes we'll get both. Yeah.
yeah, that would be awesome. I would love to do that together.
Okay, we could probably do it next time.
Awesome.
All right, all right. Anytime I think of Larry, I think about Larry Lobster from SpongeBob.
Don't come at me. I didn't watch SpongeBob.
Did you not have a TV in the house?
No, we had a TV. And at some point, because we lived in the woods, so it was like satellite dish country. But at some point, we also had a satellite dish, but it was just like, I just wasn't into SpongeBob. It wasn't my, I don't know, wasn't my thing. All right. Oh, we've got questions coming in. You guys, I'm going to have to jump off of this call. And these are good questions for Kadisha. What about live SQL assessments? And Donnelly, would you say creating an accounting database with synthetic data to simulate coming up with financial statements would be a good portfolio project? Wow,
Well,
what
as
good
far as
questions.
accounting, I mean, there's tons of public data from like, you know, the public companies on accounting. So I don't think you really need to come up with this synthetic data sets because there's so much good public data for accounting and FP&A for
Mm,
like financial statements. As far as George, we talked about life SQL assessments, man. We talked about life SQL assessments like 30 minutes ago. Um, Watch the replay. Other than that, yeah, I guess it's time to go.
yeah.
Uh, I'll see you guys next time.
Well, before we go, I am really excited, guys, because I have my group up and running. So if anybody who's here is needing support with their job search, or if you know somebody who needs support with their job search, I am super happy to support people who are in data background, or business for tech, or tech for any type of industry. And if you want to learn more, you can either send me a message on LinkedIn, or you can feel free to check out my website where you can learn a little bit more about, the system that we use in order to get you across the finish line.
All right, get them across the finish line.
Let's get you that money, guys. Let's get you paid.
All right, bye.
Bye.